Hey guys, it's Thursday night. It's time for the live stream here in Barrio Sutiaba, Nicaragua. I have had a long day at the beach. Hopefully you watched my video from today, or hopefully you're going to watch it after this. I don't know. Sorry, we are starting super late, but we are finally getting this party started. We are kicking off the live stream. We're going to do a short one this week. We're going to max out probably at about 2 hours, maybe 2.5. We'll repeat that later on when there's some people on, but we're going to do it. I think we're going to be talking a bit about some investment stuff, because that's always a great thing to talk about, always a good way to get some perspective on things, dig into what we think of offers that people are getting. Always a wonderful thing. We got one person on, so it begins. It is Thursday night. I've been on the beach all day. I've gotten a lot of sun. I have to shower and change and get out of here this evening because I'm going dancing. Because I did not get to earlier this week, and it's good exercise, and I'm going to do that. So, only one person on. Jason B, no sound. Ooh, no sound. Yeah. Why no sound? It says sound. We're showing sound. We're showing sound everywhere. But yeah, it's not. All right. If I turn this up, what happens? Now you're hearing me. I know you're getting sound now. But does it sound like it's coming out of this? Is it getting the right sound? Somehow there was no audio at all. Anyway, it's Nicaragua Live. It's Thursday night. I know you guys can hear me. And sorry for whatever that was. We are going to do a quick test. I want someone to tell me, can you hear this? And we'll see if everything is good. It may be just the main volume somehow got turned down. But here we are. And there was sound. It's louder now. Oh, I got louder. Well, there we go. I can turn that down. Maybe I'm too loud. Maybe I should bring this down just the tiniest bit. Bring this down just a couple decibels, because it is right here. So I can be a lot more chill. Alan says, "Wow, starting late." Yeah, I was at the beach all freaking day. Very exhausting, but it was a good day. I had work to do, so went out. I had a really busy day in the office, and then went to the beach and worked. It's been a lot. Luke is here. Hola, y'all. Trey is here. I'm here. Luke says he hears me. Jason B. Trey says sound here. David Fernandez, I hear you. Jason, it's good now. Yep. They got louder. Luke says, what's this? Alan says, no, it's fine. All right, we're leaving it. I think we're good. The charts seem good. We're gonna stop messing with it at this point. 12 people on, 14 people on. Here we go. Getting the party started. Okay, so I think we should grab some people. For those of you who are over on the Expats of Nicaragua group, I think we have this really good discussion going on right now. And David just told Noah to get on the live stream, because I think it's a great discussion that Noah is having on that group. And it's got a few hundred people in there, right? So like, there's not as many people on the live stream as there are on that group. And I mean, they're not all on right now, but that live, but this is a great opportunity to talk about. So he's looking at, we're gonna scroll back. He is looking at potentially buying a lot at and we're not gonna, this place could be awesome. Like we're not disparaging them in any way. At chancletas, it's a Nicaraguan term for sandals, right? And just sending out the link to everyone to make sure that people know that we're on, and they can find us. There we go. A couple people were asking me, where are we tonight? We're so late. I apologize, but I didn't have a chance to record today's video. So I recorded on the beach, which is awesome. That's cool. It was different. I hope you guys liked today's video. It's a completely different thing where I'm just kind of showing my day. It was a little bit like a throwback, but I had cool stuff to show and edited a little bit of stuff in. I think it came out pretty well. At least there's some nice scenes of things or whatever. And Roger Funk, Scott, we shipped an Amazon order through Pinolero Box. They just opened a location in Leon. Oh, awesome. Raul Zapeta says, I just watched your last video. Beautiful beach views and cool restaurant. Also, oh, you just watched it like seconds ago. Thank you. It was a fun day. So the hotel there opened, I want to say maybe Friday or Saturday. And that's been a long time coming. But very excited that it is. And I like these jobs where I do like Airbnb photos. Like, it's just kind of fun. Gives me something different. Like, I'm a camera guy, right? Like, I've always got a camera around. Obviously, this is the one I took today, actually. And so I had to set it up for this. And hopefully it's still clear. I have really high quality glass on the front of the camera, so they don't tend to pick up the sea salt. But if I take one of my cameras that doesn't have that, they're just caked in sea salt, and it's terrible. But I took that out, did photos all day, mostly with models, which is different. Like, I don't often get to do model photography from time to time, for sure. But by the way, check out the thumbnail for today's show is teddy bears. I can't see the whole image. A teddy bear or a bear walking down the road with a map showing a location and a bunch of different animals driving down the road for my daughter Luciana, who does our images every week. Sending the link out to my dad, make sure he knows that we are on finally. So I think there's a really good discussion going on the expats group about investment opportunities, because there can be situations that work out well, but there can also be, and there's generally going to be, a whole bunch of expats trying to scam other expats with business opportunities. And we just need to be careful of that and look for types of things to look out for. But before we get to that, Patricia says Noah is being gringoed. That's what she's referring to. David Fernandez says maybe, but that's why we are watching his back. Patricia, oh, awesome. Oh, that's David from David over there. Tiffany is here. I was just saying, shouldn't Scott be on live? Yeah, super late. We're doing super short this week. Still, doing a 2+ hour live is way longer than normal people, but it is not going to be anywhere near our 8-hour records or anything like that for those who were not on early enough or were, and I had the microphone broken. Sorry. I imagine it's because I opened the streaming software before I plugged in my equipment. Yeah. So I'm getting a little bit lost. What I'm doing, I had to work late, and then I have to go dancing tonight. So for anyone who's in Leon and is looking to, go dancing, I will be at Venti Trace around 11:30. I am taking the entourage. The entire entourage is in town and wants to go, so we may be there. We will hopefully all be there. And that'll be fun. I don't know what is the impetus for tonight. I know that one of our group was sick for a few days. First we're like, is it food poisoning? What could it be? And everyone ended up agreeing, including the doctors, that it was an excess of good eating. And eventually it just kicked her butt. Maybe literally, and so was feeling sick for a few days, but going dancing at Venti Trace and going to be super exhausted, but it's great exercise. And tomorrow's going to be a very long day of work. Our boss, our CEO, is going to be out. Valentina has vacation tomorrow. This is how Alan finds out. And so I'm covering for her, which means I have to work extra hard, much harder, because she does the real work instead of me. And so that is what's going on tonight. Luke says, rental opportunities report for Matagalpa after 1 week. Low cost, 1 bed, 1 bath apartment, unfurnished, $200. 2 bed, 1 bath house, furnished, $250. Boy, that's a leap. High priced, that leap in what you get for an extra $50. Like, for $50, you get an extra room and furnishings and a house. High price, 3 bed, 2 bath house, unfurnished, $700. That is a bunch. And a 1-1 apartment, unfurnished, $400. That must be a nice one. Selected a furnished 1-1 apartment for $450 with utils. Nice. Looking forward to a report on that, Luke, and maybe you already made one. I am behind on videos. Ben is here. Hey, Scott, plans for the family during the holidays? A little bit. So I have in the title, we're going to do Semana Santa. So coming up in a few days is Semana Santa here, or Holy Week. And, my dad is here. Hey, Dad. I also gave a hey dad in today's video, and hopefully my dad notices that I carefully did, for no important reason, because I'm lazy about this normally, and today there was a perfect moment where I panned across a model that was working on the shoot today in some of the footage, and it was like, I went right past her with the camera, and I could do a mask edit with the back of her hair and do a scene change using that. And I haven't done that in so long on the videos because I'm lazy, and it looked great, I think. So hopefully you'll notice. So Semana Santa with the family. So importantly, Semana Santa is this huge thing, and Nicaraguans love to flood to the beach, and for a week or two, and just take over the coast. And a country that generally doesn't go to the coast is suddenly very coastal. It's a very big change in the country. And if you're looking for a time to visit the cities, as long as you're not looking to be around a lot of people, if you're looking to avoid people and get like lower prices on things and have more stuff to yourself, go to the cities, especially in the interior, during Semana Santa. They're depleted. Everyone who can leaves and goes to the coast and completely overruns the coast like locusts. Like, it's crazy. I'm going to try to get down to the beach this year and film some, partially because my producer, Marcela, is the assistant manager for some properties on the beach, and she was the producer today on the projects I was on. And so she's bringing her whole extended family and going to the beach. So we're going to try to go to Semana Santa with Marcela and her family, and show what they do for the holiday. So that should be a lot of fun. I think that'll be really cool. My family does not like, especially my kids, does not like going to the beach that much in general, and they really don't like going when there's crowds. So Semana Santa, we avoid it. We just don't go there. Except all of us work at the beach over Semana Santa. So we only go for work, and we escape as soon as we can, because we get in the way, honestly. If we're not actively doing something the businesses need, we're a problem. So we try to get out of there, and we don't really want to be there when it's such a Nicaraguan thing, like a Nicaraguan family thing. There's no one wants to hang out with us. No one's like, oh, this is a chance to talk to foreigners. No, we're in the way. We're in the way to the Nicaraguans. We're in the way to the businesses. No one wants us there, and it's not fun for us, really. So we don't do that. So the adults will be down there working at different times, and the kids will be either doing something fun or just hiding at home whenever they can. Now, I do have a couple things booked over Semana Santa that hopefully come to fruition. One is a trip to Esteli. I have the friends who were working with me today and I'm going dancing with tonight, really want to see Esteli, and we think we found an Airbnb. Oh, hey, I know you guys like doing this stuff on the show. Excuse me, I have hiccups. I have not had, well, I did have dinner. I had dinner not that long ago, I guess. From Desperados, for those who are wondering. And it says, at Bryce, I'm too drunk for this conversation. You tell me your views over some drinks while I'm still sober when we meet up. Missing all the fun. There we go. Let's go find Airbnb. And let's go looking at Esteli. We all like this. We're going to go in and out of this as we go. Sorry, doing some support one here. Sometimes I get caught in support. All right, we're looking at Airbnbs. We're looking at Esteli. And we're looking coming up, hopefully we can find something sometime soon. We're just kind of doing a general search. I'm going to read ahead, and we're going to come back and forth the SLE thing. I'm also, so a buddy of mine, a lot of you know from the show, not personally, obviously, Josie Marr, that I did the drive to Honduras with, and we did the in-the-car interview, which some people hated, and some people thought it was, I literally had people say it was the best episode we ever did, and a lot of people were like, I didn't like this episode. It didn't track particularly well, but not super bad, but it did have they have at least one person say it was their all-time favorite episodes, which I thought was really interesting. And they said why, right? They're like, this conversation, like you're just the two of you in a car, doing other things, interacting with the environment, just having an organic conversation was super fun. So hopefully we'll figure out more ways to do stuff like that, and just with better light and audio in the future, because that was not well set up, and that stuff has been addressed for the most part. So I do hope to be able to fix some of that stuff in the near future. But he has a cottage on Laguna de Apoyo, and has invited me and friends out to go there during Semana Santa. So that will not be booked. That we can just go to. So we're just working out which dates we're going to go. And we're going to chill up in the cold volcanic lake for a few days during Semana Santa, where there is nothing to do. So we're just grabbing cases of beer and chilling up by the lake and watching the twinkling lights and doing nothing else. So that's gonna be super fun. Those are the two things I have going on during Semana Santa. Gonna jump down. My dad said he's here. Kimberly says, it seems harsh, but I'm so glad you guys are looking out for Noah. I was following that WhatsApp chat. Luke says, can I expect restaurants to be open next week? Yes, generally restaurants are open, Luke, normally. Raul says, dancing night? How fun. Are you going to record the nightlife in Leon? Sometime I will, not tonight. Or maybe I'll grab a little. The phone will be charged. I can see what I can do. Tom says, hey, Scott, how would you describe the mountains there where Matagalpa and Esteli are? Are they more Catskills in New York, Ouichitas in Ouichitas in Arkansas? I literally don't know how to pronounce that, and that sounds ridiculous. How do I not know that mountain range? It's the Wichitas. Oh, my gosh. The Wichitas in Arkansas. I've been away from the U.S. for too long. Lower Rockies in New Mexico or none of the above. Definitely of those, the closest thing is the Catskills. They are low mountains. They are not super high. Alleghenies in New York also kind of similar to that. They're always a little bit different. They're kind of in between the Catskills and some lower, like Shenandoah. Actually, that's really interesting. I'm sure Shenandoah is significantly taller than, say, Matagalpa. But I really want to know what it is, because I just... Shenandoah. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you far beneath your rolling river. Yeah. Anyway. You're all like, why does he sing? Average elevation 1,100 feet at Shenandoah National Park. So that, yeah, okay. And then... let's go see what Matagalpa is. Elevation. It's not going to give me an elevation. Great. Who needs an elevation when looking up a city? We don't need that. That seems like a waste of effort. Matagalpa. And it is not listed anywhere. Wow. Average elevation of Matagalpa, 2,769 feet. So actually, yeah, so the Cordillera coming through Nicaragua is higher, it seems, by a bit, but I think Shenandoah National Park average includes valleys and stuff, so difficult to really compare. It's like the Appalachians. Right, that gives you an idea. It's enough that you definitely notice that it's cooler having cities up in the mountains. The temperature comes down, the weather changes. Obviously, you're on different terrain, And but it is importantly kind of like the Catskills or the Adirondacks, whereas it is in lower Nicaragua and a lot of Central America. It's like a ridge, but in northern Nicaragua it spreads out, and much of like in Guatemala as well. The mountainous region is actually quite large widthwise. And then when it goes up through Mexico, it stays pretty wide. And then eventually, and this is important, it is the Rockies, right? This is the Andes and the Rockies. This is just the part in the middle. It's much lower. It's had a lot more wear and tear, but it's the same mountain range from the southern tip of Chile all the way into northern Alaska. One thing. So from a geologic perspective, it is the Rockies, and the Rockies are the Andes. They're a child range of the Andes. But from a elevation and width and how you interact with it kind of way, the Appalachians are much more indicative. It is a little bit less worn down. So when you're looking at it, you're going to have a feeling of it being a younger mountain range, because it is, than the Appalachians. The Appalachians is one of the world's oldest mountain ranges, whereas like the Himalayas is one of the youngest. Sorry, I have the air conditioning on during my day temperatures, and it's really warm when the lights are on, so I got to do something about that. It didn't come down. Come on. There we go. A little bit better. And so it gives you a feel for it. Restaurants. Janet has redacted her message. Edwin says, "Hi, Scott. Valley J. So can I import my wood shop as a hobbyist?" You can import basically anything. Right, there's essentially no controls. Would you want to? That's a equation, right? But can you? Yeah, it's not like they're controlled substances. It's not like import isn't allowed, and there's no reason to not import things from a government perspective, right? If you're looking at it as a government or as a representative of the people of Nicaragua, why would they actually care if you're going to import things? They may want to tax it. There may be import duties and so forth. There may be some cost involved. They need to check it or whatever. But actually bringing things into the country just helps the country overall. You're adding to the economy in a minor way. So you're not taking anything away from it. So it's generally considered a good thing. Very dehydrated being out in the sun all day. I did get some color today. It's hard to tell. Luke says, "Tom, Cascades Mountain is 73 right now with a constant breeze in Matagalpa." Oh, he says, like the Cascades. Jan says, "I'm here, but I have to do a class. I'm glad there's a live stream. Ramon will be selling at the beach over Samana Santa. I will stay far away." Edwin says, "Did you see that I did see this. Did you see that helicopter crash in the Hudson River in New York City? Everyone on board was killed." Yeah, it crashed into the river, I think. I saw a little bit on it, but I didn't get any news. New update on Pista Héroes de la Insurrección based on TikTok videos and new content from Canal Nicaraguense regarding this topic. We'll get to it in a bit. We're reading through. Dog. Appreciate all the support. You're welcome, Dog. Also, Dog says, "If you guys thinking I'm being fringed, you guys got to look at the fringed by the Brisas del Alma community being built. Smaller lots for more of that price." Is Dog also Noah, perhaps? Edwin says, "The new streetlights are now being set in the brand new concrete steel light poles that make part of the brand new 1,100 streetlights, the whole 10-kilometer highway that goes through Managua east to west." Oh, that'll be really nice. We definitely need new streetlights. We need them out here. Luke says 2,200 feet at Matagalpa. Edwin says via new Canal Nicaraguense video uploaded early this morning, the very first light pole on Section 4 was installed on the new La Robelo Bridge in Carretera Norte as it's getting near completion. Oh, Edwin, I can't believe you have not given us the update on this yet, because you are the man for this stuff. What is the update on the new San Francisco de Assisi Mirador that opened on the Carretera Norte 3 days ago? We want to know exactly where it is. Did I see it was at kilometer 76? Is that right? That's probably wrong. But we want to know where it is, what's going on with it, like what's cool about it. Gypsy Traveler, could you tell me which city has the most expats, Matagalpa or Esteli? I can't. I'm going to guess Matagalpa. Matagalpa is... Esteli gets all the interest for me from people who haven't been there. They all seem to be focused on Esteli, and all the people who move there seem to go to Matagalpa. I like Matagalpa a lot more. No offense to Esteli. it's a little bit higher. I like the elevation changes within the city. Esteli is like high but flat, more or less. I forgot we have an Airbnb to look at. There are some cool places in Esteli. I feel like we looked at some of these recently on the show. Maybe not. So here is one of... Nah, that did not go through well. Oh. When you get a bad link, Airbnb makes it really hard to share the links on here because they give you crazy long links that you can't put in things. I think if I do it... There we go. Alan says, the heck with streetlights, less potholes first. Honestly, I'd prefer streetlights. If I have streetlights, I can see the potholes. But I also need to see dogs and cats and everything else, and people. Edwin says, in exactly 2 months' time, Section 1 of Pista Héroes de la Insurrección will be 100% complete and inaugurated. I'm very excited on going through there ever since 2023. Yeah, we need to get that. I think you're going to find a very similar number of expats, Matagalpa and Esteli, but I think Matagalpa will have a few more. It's just closer to things. It's the bigger city. It's the more powerful city. Esteli's the more expensive. What I've heard is you have more like Europeans and North Americans in Matagalpa, and that there are surprisingly more Chinese in Esteli, but you know, these days the rumors of who's where is so just based on who's concerned about one thing or the other. Oh gosh, there's so many Americans here, we're worried about it. And that's just one person who's worried about Americans. If you're worried about the Chinese, then you're somewhere else. You're like, there's so many Chinese, right? Or it all depends what you're attuned to seeing. If you're used to seeing Americans and suddenly there's Chinese, you're like, whoa, there's so many. And you don't notice that there's 10 times as many Americans. Or if you're used to seeing Chinese and suddenly there's an American, you're like, well, it's an American invasion, right? And it's just one guy or two guys. So perspective is difficult, and I've not spent enough time in both to make a good comparison between them. But I also know that the number here in Leon has shot up enough that people are like, wow, you really notice compared to Leon just a couple years ago. So check out this link that I sent from Airbnb. This is a beautiful furnished apartment, it says, but it's like a house. And it's a little bit much, $85 a night, but it's 3-bedroom, 4-bath, which I'm not bringing that many people, but it's a pretty nice spot that I keep stumbling on when I'm looking at Esteli, and totally at $85 a night. Like if you're feeling like a kind of a fancy-ish weekend, you want to have a little bit of space, maybe take some friends, like this is not an expensive way to go for if you've got some buddies and you want to go hang out in Esteli. It's on the southeast side of the city. It's got a nice bathroom or several bathrooms. Everything seems well appointed. And we did look at this on the live stream recently, and everyone was like, look at that laundry room. So this is one that we've come up on before. I've got a heart on it because it's worth remembering. It's pretty interesting. Edwin says, where is that Mirador? North of La Rebelo intersection at Barrio Pedro Joaquin Chamorro. There's a Mirador under construction since 2023, but there's no news reports about it. No, this one's on the Carretera Norte, and it's open. Like, they showed pictures and people going up to it. Is that I heard since the very early days of the new highway. Edwin Castillo is here. Hey, Scott, how are you? Scott, what was the reason for moving to Nicaragua? And also, where in the U.S. did you used to live? All right, so I'm originally from New York. My dad's on here. I was born in Rochester, New York, but grew up in the countryside that would be more considered associated with Buffalo. But because my dad worked in Rochester, I grew up in an area that felt like Buffalo and had an accent like Buffalo, but we spent way more time involved in Rochester. So I think of Rochester as my home city, and it's where I was born. But I grew up in Wyoming County, New York, should you want to look at it on a map, on a farm. Right, so very rural, not what people are picturing. As soon as I say New York, everybody's just like, obviously, it's got to be the city, right? Suburbs, like downtown, where? Nope, I grew up on a farm, very, very middle of nowhere. And then I lived all over the U.S. When I was a young adult, I lived in Pittsburgh. I worked all over the Northeast. I've lived in South Carolina. I've lived in, I don't even know. I've worked in California, lived in Texas for a long time. Lived in Michigan briefly. Spent some time, South Carolina. I spent a whole bunch of time living in Maryland and Virginia. Very small area, but with the border in between. That's one of the most major ones. I've lived in different parts of New York. I've lived in Ithaca, New York. Used to work in Binghamton. Really been all over the region, working and I've worked in different countries separately, but primarily New York and Dallas, Texas are my big long-term. Luke, I did kind of for a while. My dad actually worked at Eastman Kodak for, was it 35 years? Dad, how many years? The most of my time was New York growing up, and then when I was older, most of my adult life, a lot of it was New York, right? I did put in a lot of time as an adult living in New York, and a lot of time in Dallas, Texas, which I really did like. As cities go in the U.S., Dallas, for living, not for visiting. If I'm visiting like Austin, New York, they're great. But for living, places like Dallas and Pittsburgh, I find really, really good. Where did I live in South Carolina? I was there 2001-ish, and in Anderson, which is way out west. 34 years. I was off a year on my dad. And so why Nicaragua? So my family was looking at moving abroad for a really long time, and we did a ton of research early, and really my wife and I always were researching, and we always kind of felt drawn to Latin America. We were talking about moving to Uruguay as early as 2005, and so we put in a lot of time being like, you know what, I think we want to move abroad. I don't know if we want to move abroad before we have kids. We decided, because we always knew we were planning on having kids, and so that was a factor, and kind of like wanted to have kids, and then we knew we wanted to raise kids abroad. And one of the reasons that our kids have the names that they have is that we wanted to have names that were unique in the United States but traditional in Europe, so that if they were to live in the U.S., they'd have the advantage of a real name, not a name we made up, and family names, but ones that were a little bit unusual and would stand out and give them some identity from a name perspective. But we wanted, if they were in Europe, that they would have traditional names that would be seen as traditional European as well, and specifically reflected their cultures, which obviously come from my wife and I. My predominant culture being Swiss and her predominant culture being Italian, which, if you look at a map, are actually 50 miles apart from each other. It's really close. But she's from southern Italy, and I'm from northern Switzerland cultures. So there is actually quite a bit of big gap in between. I just put up another Airbnb, $50 a night, only a 1-bedroom, so it's not going to meet my needs, but is a nice looking place. And I think we showed this one on the show before as well. But I think the one that I'm looking for, the one that I have discovered, and maybe I'm wrong, I think I actually did all of this on the show. Now I'm having this like, oh, we did all this last week on the show, didn't we? But I want to find this one that I bookmarked and see if it's available, because I think it's actually what we want to use. I think I found it. Ooh, but what's this one? Ugh. Everything always jumps around. All right. There's that one. There's... All right, we're checking this one out. Okay. Oh, this is definitely the one. Oh, I didn't save it. That's surprising. Okay, now it's on my list. It is 2-bedroom, 2 beds, 1 bath, free parking, 7 years of hosting, air conditioning, TV. Oh, yes, we found some really interesting ones last week out in the middle of nowhere. That's what brought this up. All right, so here is... This is what I'm thinking for, like, in the next few days. Heading up with some friends and just hanging out in the mountains. Ekal number 2... That one looks pretty nice. I mean, it's on the pricey side for sure, but it's a fancy, like, it's got views of the mountains. It's got lots of areas outside. It's I think it's good. Okay. So we did a bunch of research. We've always had Latin America on our radar. We always had Europe on our radar. We had some other places that we certainly considered, right, at different times. And we ended up moving to Europe when we first did. Well, before we did that, we went for work and ended up working a little bit in Europe. and just absolutely loved it. And we're like, there's so like history and just so many things. And really, part of it is just being abroad from the U.S. If you've never done it, being abroad from the U.S. is like, whoa, wherever you go first, you'll probably be pretty amazed. And growing up near Canada, every time we went to Canada, it was always like, oh, it's so cool, right? And it's barely different than the U.S. You go to like Europe and you're like, what? So that's pretty big. Once we did that, we're like, absolutely, we want to move to Europe. Even if we end up not liking it, it won't be that bad. It will be very easy. It'll be a great situation for our kids, everything, right? So we're like, we're going to do that. And so we had our first daughter. We know we were going to have a second child. So we were waiting to move. We didn't want our kids to be born abroad. Lots of complications with that. And we didn't know really where we wanted to go. So we took like 2011 off for research, and we didn't do it intentionally. Like life put us in a position where we did have our second daughter in 2011, and it ended up being a year where we just did an insane amount of research. We basically lived abroad mentally throughout the year, and that was it's actually a really wonderful memory for me of that year, because for a lot of reasons we were home a lot, had a baby, work was great but had some challenges, and so I had a lot of time at home. And we had this really amazing year where we were, as my father would describe it, as a dreaming year, right? My wife and I spent the whole year hanging out with our young children and dreaming about what the future could bring for us, and building not just like this really like off dream of like someday. No, it was, here's a date that we know we're getting on a plane. We had a bunch of family reasons that gave us like the exact date within a few hours of this is when we're going to leave and this is when we got to be back, with almost 2 months in between. And it was weddings. It was family weddings that bookended a big research trip. And we scheduled and planned out a grand tour, which used to be a standard thing, of Europe with our very young children in 2012. So we picked all these places that we felt we just had to go see in Europe, places we were unwilling not to see the first time. My wife had some on her list, including some parts of the Alsace. I had some places on my list, including Vienna. And then we had a bunch of places that we were interested in learning more about the region. We didn't have a specific thing to go see. We were just going to the Rhine region because we wanted to see what it was like. And we were going to go to Portugal because we wanted to see what it's like, and so forth. We just wanted to explore and build knowledge of what Europe is like in areas that would be potentially valuable for us to move to in the future. So we did this really big, nearly 2-month trip in 2012. It was epic, absolutely amazing. One of the best things ever done in our life. We had so much time together as a family, so much like concentrated time. We were ready to kill each other, of course, but it was just such an unbelievable thing. And I'm sure my wife would say the same thing. It's hard to come up with something else in our lives that really compares with that as an event. Obviously, having kids, bigger deal. Getting married, bigger deal. Blah blah. But of things we just chose to do, unbelievable. And we researched 9 countries while we were there. Everything was backpacking and taking trains, and we got to know Europe really well. Like by the end of 2 months, we had a lot of new language skills, we had a lot of travel skills, and we had researched so much in 2011 that we were pretty skilled going in 2012. And we had always traveled around the U.S. and Canada prior to that, and we had done a little bit of Europe prior to that, both together and separately. And so by the time we were doing this epic trip with kids, we knew what we were doing as travelers and as backpackers, and were able to do, and I'm very good at responding to changes in plans, and my wife is very good at planning. So the combination is like we're a team for this kind of stuff, and we learned so much about what we wanted to do, and we came back and we put our life into motion to get to Europe. Now, we weren't like, we're leaving in a few weeks. Really, we should have, but we took a little bit of time, worked with my job. They ended up not screwing us over, but not giving us what they had alluded that they probably would. And I ended up leaving that job over it in 2013. So it wasn't that much time later, right? It was a little bit over a year. Moved to another job that we were hopeful would be a huge step up. And it was in a way because within months of working that new job, I was offered my choice of offices in Europe, and took the job. We were going to be moving most likely to Paris eventually. Like there was a bunch of like, got to start in New York, but I'm going to like, once we're up and running, I'll be in Paris. And it was an amazing opportunity. And then a whole bunch of life events, which I've told in other stories, and I won't repeat now because it will completely derail things, kept that from coming to fruition. But it did cause us to leave the job that had kept us in New York. It caused us to leave the industry I was in. And we were just like, we're just moving to Europe. Like, we're done. We tried to do everything like the buy the book with a good job, blah, blah, blah. We're like, let's just get out of here. And so we ended up moving to southern Spain and started really investigating places that we thought were, with all the research we had done, all the work we had done, were going to be perfect places for us. And I think we did a great job. We never picked a place that wasn't fantastic. And there's some that we're really convinced would be just amazing for us that we haven't been to. And I'm 100% sure that they would be amazing. But we did Spain, and then because you have to hop, while doing this, you have to come out of Europe every so often. And so we took some time off and went to Panama and lived in Panama and absolutely loved it. And it's so different comparing Latin America to Europe. Europe is so polished. It's so old in a continuous culture way, which is almost not true. Like, we lived in Spain. Is that continuous culture? Heck no, right? 1492 is when they were finally not an African country. It's very recent in some ways and very old in others. But you have this, Roman heritage that goes way, way back. Generally, most of the peoples that you are engaging with in places their families have been there for thousands of years, which is something we're not really used to in North America. Everything is, polished is really the way to look at it. There's huge swaths of Europe that's like barely populated, and it's just mind-blowing how empty certain parts are, certain really beautiful parts, and yet it's so densely populated everywhere. Like, Europe is interesting and amazing in so many ways. And we absolutely loved it. And then Latin America had many of the things that we loved about Europe, and a lot of these things are intangible, very ineffable. But the thing we found in Latin America is that it just felt so much more approachable and raw. And hold on, I gotta. Hold on, I've got to read some. Okay. In Latin America, we found it just so much more approachable that it isn't so polished. You're still able to, I don't know, get way more connected to the real culture and be a part of a place and not just be an outsider with a beautiful view and getting to participate as an observer, which is how Europe really felt. I think maybe that's a good description. I've only thought of that just now. When I was in Europe, everything felt like we were welcome back then. But it always felt like you're in a museum. You're looking at things from the outside. There's this inside thing that you're not privy to. You're never really going to fit into a community. You will, right? Of course you could. But in general, there's a very outsider kind of thing. Even if you're moving to someplace like England, it's very hard not to be an outsider. There's so much just cultural differences that it's hard to break in, and it's got this polish, this museum feeling that makes it beautiful. It makes it amazing in so many ways. But coming to Latin America, it was like, oh, I get to be a part of this story. I get to be a part of a community wherever I went. It just felt different. And obviously, Latin America has a lot of very different cultural backgrounds, a lot of different history than Europe, so that's a factor. It is has a very different recent interaction with the world, has very different political entities. Just a lot of things are different there. And so we really enjoyed Latin America. And while Europe feels just simpler and safer and more just everything is pretty and everything's in its place and everything's organized and everything, right? All that's cool. And I'm not disparaging that in any way. But I would take the gritty, raw experience of Latin America over that because I want to experience the human condition and experience these human stories for real and be a part of a community and get sucked into a place and get away from... And part of the reason that it's like this is that Europe is just a giant tourist trap. Not a bad one, not an artificial one, except for Venice. It's totally crap. But in general, it's this living museum of, and in some cases, like modern things, not old things. Much of Europe is really old, and they keep it that way so you can come see the museum. But many are also creating new things that you also want to go see. But they're beautiful architectures and works of art and like huge amounts of money going into things that are, it looks beautiful and that's great and expressive, but it's also very silly and extravagant. And coming to Latin America, it doesn't feel like a living museum, with exceptions like Leon and Granada here in Nicaragua, of course. But in general, there is just this lack of polish, this lack of facade, this you interact directly, with the obvious exceptions, and for the most part, and it's just it's more of what we wanted. Okay, so we were in Panama, and when our time was up in Panama, it was actually because I had to go work in the United States for just a few weeks, but it meant it didn't make sense for us to keep an apartment. So we moved back to the U.S. temporarily and lived out of family houses for a few weeks while I dealt with some work stuff. And then the job just treated me so badly that I'm like, you know what? No. So I ended up just giving up all American employment at that point. And we're like, you know what? We didn't really feel like moving back to Europe yet. Something was drawing us to explore. We're like, Panama it whet our appetites and it didn't fulfill us enough on Latin America. We liked it so much. And we're like, we have to see more. And Costa Rica didn't, obviously no interest, right? I honestly struggle to understand. I love Costa Rica. I'm not saying it's a bad place. It's a wonderful country with a lot of good stuff, but as a foreigner, it's so hard for me. I have memorized, right? Oh, people love being around tourists who are tourists, right? And for, which I hate, but there's so many people who want to congregate together. That's why people go to Costa Rica. But for anyone else, I can't fathom what would draw you there because of that, not because of cultural things in Costa Rica or anything, but it's expensive and has so many tourists that it's like Disney World without the rides. So we're like, we know enough about Nicaragua that we knew it was super interesting. We knew that it had a lot of history that we wanted to know about. We know, hold on. The sorry, we have Bryce getting banned probably from another group. the so we had seen travel stuff to Nicaragua that made it just look. We're like, whoa, that is not what we pictured. Boy, do I want to check this out. I'm so intrigued by the whole Nicaraguan experience. Like, it just seeing it was so different than what was presented to us in the U.S. that it was like, wow, we don't know enough, and that makes it this desirous thing to go check out. So that's what we decided to do, and my wife found a place. We came to Nicaragua, and we never thought it was going to be a place we wanted to stay. We just really wanted to learn more about it, and so we were willing to move for a while. And so we moved, and honestly, we didn't like Grenada that much, and our experience in Grenada was not particularly special, but something about Nicaragua was really good, and we had this like really positive general experience in Nicaragua, and we did a lot of exploring the country, Matagalpa, Leon. We didn't go to Managua, believe it or not. San Juan del Sur, Rivas, Ometepe. We never went to Masaya while we were there. We kind of avoided the whole capital region, which is funny. Jinotega for sure, and we did enough that we really, people would be like, you know more of the country than a lot of locals. So it was good and very educational. And then we went back to Europe. And we really didn't think about moving back to Nicaragua at that time. Hold on. I clicked on the wrong thing. Someone needs to know. And then we lived in other countries in Europe and did a lot of investigation and loved some places. Like so many great things, and loved it, and then had to return to the U.S. for some stuff for a little while. And while I was living in the U.S., Alan, who's on all the chats right now, for a while he was looking at places he wanted to retire or prepare to retire. Right? He had that, and this is a common mindset. Wants to find a place to live and then retire in the same place. Like, if it's a place you want to retire in, why don't you want to live in there first? And if it's so good that that's where you want to spend the positive not working years, why don't you live there and just enjoy it that much longer, right? So he came to me probably in 2017, maybe 2016, somewhere around there, and was like, you've traveled a lot and you like lived places, like not like tourist travel, like you've traveled and you know a lot of countries. Help me find a place that would make sense for me. And we talked for a really long time. We looked at a lot of places. I remember a ton of research, Alan, on like northwestern Mexico. That was a big one. Now it's a really popular place to be. That was a huge one. I know we were looking at like Ecuador. It wasn't as hot back then, but it was hot. There was a lot of places we looked. Definitely looked at Costa Rica. Definitely looked at Panama. And I have really good friends in Panama, so like and history there. So it was like, and people he knows that was possibilities because of that. And eventually we settled that really for the combination of things he was looking for, Nicaragua was what made sense. And at the time we thought San Juan del Sur. Boy, we dodged a bullet there. But that was where we were thinking. And did tons of research, and for some reason it took a really long time before we were able to come down and actually show it to him in person. But he did so much research that he like knew all the it's just as I got a crazy tan. Is it really that visible? I was in the sun all day on the beach. I feel that I have a little bit of color, but it's I don't feel it, but I can't really see the monitor, but I guess I did get a bit of color today. Well, that's good. I need it. So he knew like all the businesses, all the streets. He knew his way around town without having been there. And then we finally came down in 2019, spent a bit of time there. My best friend Rachel came down with us, and we all hung out. And we had a really good time. And he fell in love with Nicaragua. He's like, this is the place for me. I mean, to the point where we thought he may not even get on the plane home. And he kind of was prepared. Had he not had dogs or the dogs had come with him, I think that would have been it. I think it'd have been like, why would I get on the plane? This makes no sense. Which is a great place to be, right? This is so good that why leave? And that's how kind of Nicaragua does its thing. But in doing this for him and showing him around San Juan del Sur, and we also went and did Granada a bit less, and then we went and I'm like, this is my old house, and this is the old place I used to go, and ran into a guy in the street that I knew, and he'd given me a hug, and when I got back home, I was so much, and Rachel, my best friend, she was like, Nicaragua was the place for me. Like, I've never loved a place that much. And she had lived with me in Spain. We've been to Africa together. She lives in Belgium now. She'd spent a lot of time living in Europe. So she was like, no, Nicaragua, let's do this. So she was completely ready to move. And which I forget now. This is a part of the story that I forget to tell. My best friend was ready to move to Nicaragua on the spot, right? And she had just moved, or was in the process of moving, to live next to me in Dallas. So we got back and we finished helping her move, and she literally moved just down the street, right? So that we could walk. For a long time, we lived maybe an hour away from each other, which was horrible. And for a long time, she lived in my house, but I wasn't there. When I lived abroad, she would live in my house. And just killed a bug. And so she had moved to be my neighbor, so we could just walk back and forth. And like, I'm coming over to your place for beers. I'm coming over to your place for beers, right? You can meet at restaurants in the middle. Like, we hung out all the time. And the lifestyle that I have here in Nicaragua, where I go out regularly and go dancing and go to the bar and go see live music and all that, that comes from my time with Rachel living in Texas, and not nearly as much as here, partially because Texas is way more expensive. But we would go out dancing and go see live bands and stuff regularly when everyone else we knew didn't. So that's something that really fit for us with Nicaraguan culture and everything. And she loves the food and the culture, just everything about Nicaragua hit her as just being perfect. And so we got back, and I talked to my wife, and I'm like, I feel like we'd forgotten how much we actually like Nicaragua, and not being in Granada the whole time, and being around like the tourist zone, it's different than I remember, and things have changed in a really positive way. So we now know it's on a great trajectory, and these other things were amazing, and coming back to Nicaragua hit me so much as feeling like home. And earlier that year, I had been back in Europe to a bunch of places that we had been, where we had lived as a second grand tour, and a lot of those places really did, like, I'd be like, oh, I miss living here. I miss my kids being this age here, and like Greece especially. I felt really reconnected to while I was there. Of course, we lived very close to we just stayed. We rented an apartment very close to where our house had been on Crete, and but Nicaragua, for some reason, I was just home. I was like, I've been away for a long time, which is funny because now I've lived here longer than I was ever away. But it's like, boy, I was away for so long, and it just was like, I'm supposed to be here. So I talked to my wife about it, and one of the things that had kept us from like making a permanent decision was that she didn't want to make a decision to move somewhere until it was perfect, which is, she's a planner, and it's like, you'll never know that a place is perfect. That's not going to happen. But you can find the place that's right. What we know is the place we're living in isn't the place we want to be. We'd ruled that out 20 years before, 30 years before. So that was really silly. It's like, why are we home basing in a place where we don't want to be? We're maintaining 2 houses. Like, this is terrible. And we did. For 10 years, we had 2 houses in the U.S. and lived abroad. It was stupid. So eventually it was like, wait, we could get a place on the beach. We could be in Nicaragua and save all this money. We do love Nicaragua. And she hadn't been there in 2019. And so she made the decision that we could move down. And unfortunately, we didn't make it before COVID hit. And so we ended up having to wait for COVID before we could make a final move. And move during COVID for sure. But we had to wait until there was a way down and we could put things together and everything during COVID, which was very difficult. But it just turned out perfectly. So it was a combination of a ton of research. It just hit us as the right place. It's safe it's very close to home. One of the things that when we lived here in Nicaragua, the first time we left, not because it was the end of our time here, is we had a family emergency and had to go. And we were back home in a day, like emergency in the morning, home at night with family. Like, holy cow. If anything goes wrong, we can get back so fast. Flights are so cheap. We're Americans, right? It's the same time zone as our work, all kinds of things. It just has a lot of logistics to make sense, but it's safe, right? It's one of the safest countries in the region. It's definitely the safest in the region. It's one of the safest in Latin America. It is the lowest cost of living in the Western Hemisphere, short of a war zone. It is the best infrastructure, right? We have great roads, good power, great internet. Like, okay, check. It's a very friendly, welcoming country. It has visa programs that are so easy for Americans. It gives us all kinds of flexibility. It's in the center of places we want to be. It just so many things came together that's like, honestly, how does any place compete with Nicaragua for us? For other people, yeah, I understand. It's not for everyone. But for us, it hit every box. Every little thing was like, Nicaragua really is the place for us. It just is what it is. And so we made the move down, and we've not looked back. It's been a fantastic journey. It's neat now to look back and be like, we've been here for 10 years with gaps, but we've been here so long that those gaps are starting to go away, right? You put in enough time and it's like, well, we lived here in 2015 and we visited in 2019. I was here in super early 2021, and then we moved relatively early in 2021. And I've never left. And so those are kind of the big things. There's no one thing, and it's very hard to, say, here's why we moved to a country. It's so many factors that go into something like that. And the biggest ones are, you just feel it. And so, I mean, maybe the biggest ones are cost of living and safety. I understand. But way up there is this ineffable, you just sense that this is the place for you. You just connect with your community. And when we were in Granada, we didn't connect. We did not. And coming to Leon, almost instantly, we did. Those are really big differences that just happen between different locations. And it's something you have to experience for yourself. And it's one of the reasons I always tell people, you got to come down and try a place for a bit of time, because the most important factors are things you can't possibly know from abroad, right? It's a beautiful country. Yep, check. It's cheap. Yep, check. It's safe. Yep, check. But what about that vibe? What about that feeling that's so important? You got to come down and experience it. You should do some research and be like, I feel like the vibe will be good, but that's only going to get you so far. Sorry. Coordinating the evening activities. Okay. So that was a really long question for Edwin Castillo. Now I have a lot, I bet, to scroll through. Kimberly says, that is nice Airbnb units that you shared last week on the live stream. That was, yep. So hopefully I'm going to be going to that one really soon. Eric says, love your live thumbnails. Raging Gun. Hi, friends. Buffalo Sabres. Let's go. Luke says, and you didn't work for Eastman. We addressed that. Lester Lauren Lozano. I don't know why, but every time I try to go on the Airbnb website for Nicaragua, it crashes every time. Have been trying for weeks, but with no success. Any suggestions? What browser, computer, whatever you're using? I'm using Firefox on Mac, and I've never had a problem. I have no idea what might be going on. Also, try the Airbnb app on your phone. Patricia says, when and where did you live in South Carolina? Address that. Did you hear? Okay, Edwin CT, Nicaragua, said, did you hear about U.S. food chains like Chipotle, known for burritos and bowls, and Raising Cane's Chicken Restaurant, which is a tip-top copy? You find some of its chicken quite similar, except its cup of sauce and chicken they serve is always tenders. We'll see in a minute what he said. Gypsy says, I have visited Leon and Matagalpa and Jinotega, and now after seeing videos again of all these cities, including Esteli, Leon is so precious with all the old colonial architecture. It is, Gypsy. Honestly, it's not something I want to live around. I love looking at it. Just like people love visiting Antigua. It's like a warm Antigua, a warm, older Antigua. But I don't want to live in any of those from an architectural standpoint. Obviously, I want to live in Leon. That's where I am. I'm not going to leave Leon, but I don't like the architecture. It causes so many problems. Just how do you live in and around old buildings? How do you maintain them? I don't like it as much. I much prefer Matagalpa, right, from the everything. Luke says, now tell me you managed the Penny Arcade. No, but I remember it. Edwin says, Edwin says, do you think Nicaragua will be the last stop? Oh, this is Edwin Castillo. Do you think Nicaragua will be the last stop for you and your family? It's not the last place that we're going to live from a temporary standpoint, but we're very confident this is our final stop as our home base. This is our permanent home. We have invested ridiculously too much for it not to be, and we're already partway in on the investment to build our permanent home here. We've never built our own home before. We've built things. We've done nearly everything, but we've never built a permanent home for ourselves before. And we're not under construction right now, but we do have the land. We do have the spot. We do have the plans. We do have everything. It is our life plan to build. And we think our kids, given the way our kids are very likely to decide to live with or near us for the long term. That may not be true, but we hope so, and they seem to think so most of the time. And and we want to have space for them and be close to the things that we like and be in the community that we like to be in. So we're continuously investing more emotionally and financially into this particular place. So this is our forever home. This is our last permanent stop for sure, or as sure as it gets. Trey Hardy, Lester, are you using app or website? That's about the Airbnb. I posted some stuff. Kimberly took something away. Edwin says, I even want to make Raising Cane's in Nicaragua and even a Chipotle bowl or burrito. I watched a lot of videos of that in 2025. I don't know. I can't imagine Nicaraguans eating at those places. Because there's all these better things. Scar Pierre says, I emailed you about the consultation. Scar, I'm so sorry. I'm so far behind on emails. I have not had time to do anything this week. Even the live stream is hours short. I do know that it came in. I will get back to you very soon. Yes, I do consultations. I don't like to advertise it. It's not why I do the show, but obviously consultations are fun and I think valuable. And I am willing to do it for people who reach out to me. So, Scar, I will get back to you. Give me a couple days. I'm covering for our CEO tomorrow. I just, manage questions and make sure people have someone to go talk to or whatever. But it does take a lot of my day, so it's a big thing. Raging Gun says, awesome. Good to do in life. Travel at least once, for sure. Sometimes it happens. Getting married, having kids, living life, and protecting our kids from the monsters. Life events. Let's go. Life events just happen. You can't plan for them. They do include bad things like car accidents, bike accidents, and being jailed by bad police without doing any real crimes. It happens. Europe is idyllic. Canada and U.S. are brand new, no history. Brent says, oh, wow, glad I caught the stream. Almost forgot about it. Hey, thanks to Luke for the Matagalpa rentals info. Looks like you really got plugged into the network up there. He did. Luke is like all over the place in Matagalpa this week. Raging Gun says there's castles in Europe. So funny enough, my best friend is a castle investor. That's what she does. And vampires. Also funny, I lived in Romania, in Transylvania, right in the middle of vampires. And once in the middle of the night, because those who know me know that I wander cities in the middle of the night. It is my thing. I was in Timișoara, Transylvania, and just wandering a back street, ended up going up a ramp, ended up inside an old castle, wandering around. There was all these shops, things going on. There was a rave going on, all kinds of stuff. And at some point, I was leaning up against a wall, as you do in the middle of the night. Sometimes, part of the secret to walking quietly at night around cities is just stopping for a minute to experience a place. And I've been doing this since, heavily since 2004. I spent 2004 working all over the Northeast U.S. in a different city every day. And so I was always in hotels. I worked an overnight job. Technical. I was an engineer. I was the head of a project, but it needed me in a different city every day working overnight. It was wild. But I had a lot of free time at night. And so, but I had to be awake. It was crazy. So I would walk different cities, and sometimes small ones, right? Cities of 30 to 80,000 people sometimes. Erie, Pennsylvania, as an example. And I'd be like in like downtown areas often, and I would just walk because I'd have hours. And I'd listen to audiobooks quite often, so I wouldn't be in silence. And this is back when you had like iRiver MP3 players that ran off of a single AA battery and had a little LCD monocolor displays, like blue, bright blue. They were so... I loved using those old MP3 players. There's just something about them, partially because they were cheap and you could bang them around and it didn't matter. It's not like carrying a phone where it's like you drop it, like, no, and you don't want to use it for too many things because you're running down your battery. This is just an MP3 player, right? If someone stole it, who cares? And I'd put all kinds of books on there, all kinds of nonfiction history books and science books and anthropology, and study things. And once in a while, read fiction, but not very often. And I would just listen to these books and walk and explore places and read street signs, read historic markers, look at buildings, see what life was going on at night, which often was none. And I learned to do this, and I just love this. Like, I feel like I own the city quite often at night. I remember walking around Aurora, New York in absolute darkness, in absolute silence. And it was like whole city streets that during the day are busy. And at night, you can stand in the middle of the street. You can sit down in the middle of the street. There's no cars. There's no people. No one's going to say anything. It's all yours. The sidewalk, the city parks, the road, the intersections, the everything. It's just for you. And it's this amazing experience. And I kind of have this thing. I love being in a place, especially that has some kind of history or importance to it. And being like, for a moment in history, this important place is just me. There's nobody else. If you go to the Louvre, there's always someone there, always a million people there, right? But you can go to some pretty important places, and maybe just a city center. How many people were, did something here, sold fish in the market? How many people got married here? How many people told a story here? How many people played guitar here? Whatever, over hundreds of years of its history. And for this moment, all that space shared by all those people is just me. And connecting to a place and connecting through time is this amazing experience, I think. And you don't get that walking around during the day. You're always sharing everything everywhere. And so I would do this. So I was in Timișoara in Romania, in southern Transylvania. And I ended up just leaning on this wall and just like for this moment, like this castle's been here for so long. And these stones in the walls and the stones that I'm standing on and the doors and the archways, everything is so old. And during the day, this place is full of tourists. It is full of there's actual government offices in this castle. They use it. But right now, all that is there is this ancient walls and stuff, and it's mine for the moment. And I was leaning on this wall, and I looked at the wall, and there was a plaque on the wall. Well, there's a sign for what this building was I was leaning on. It's a breakfast nook inside the castle. It's just a little spot you can go and get coffee and eggs and whatever in the morning. So it's like a lively little, you want to have breakfast in the castle. And I was looking at the plaque on the wall, and I'm like, oh, so in this little nook that is now a breakfast place is where Vlad the Impaler was born. Literally in this breakfast nook is his birthplace. And you're like, for this moment in time, I was directly connected with all the vampires. Like, it was just... Luke says, Brent, I am the network. Raging Gun says, fast typing. Wow. Oh, I've typed so much for so long. How many words per minute? The fastest I've ever been clocked continuous is about 260. And I'm sorry that the microphone really picks up the typing. I have a mechanical keyboard that's really pretty loud, and it's right underneath the microphone. Sorry, sometimes I have to type when I'm on the live stream. But so I've actually typed. So I've been typing since I was 5 years old, and all through elementary school, all through high school, all through college, I typed everything. So I have so much more typing experience, and I was taught to touch type when I was 5, and I had to type on mechanical typewriters, on electric typewriters, on computers. Like I had to do everything, and it gave me a really good ability to do a lot of different things. And one of the things, because I've done it for so long, and because so two stories. One is I once realized that if you put a piece of paper up and I start typing it, I can copy without reading the paper. I can bypass. It's like I have a GPU. I can bypass my main brain functions, and my eyes will just track the words on the page, and I'll just type it at full speed. And be done and be like, I don't even know what I typed. I can do other things. I can carry on a conversation while I do it because my brain is not reading the words, which is really weird. Also, when I was in high school, I had a friend, Josh, and he was not a good typist, and he wasn't great at writing papers. And this couple times he'd be like, oh, I really need help with this paper. I'm like, okay, instead of trying to write it, why don't you dictate a paper to me and I'll just type it? And he's like, okay. So he would stand there in the computer lab, because that's what we used to have, one computer lab for the whole school, and just 10 computers for my whole school, K through 12, and that's all there was. And I would sit down at it and I would start typing. He'd be like, okay, the Romans, when facing the barbarians with the blah blah blah, and he'd start doing whatever paper he was going to do, and I'd be typing. And then sometimes he would stop and think, and I'd be typing, and he'd be like, you're typing more than I'm saying. I'm like, yeah, because I'm correcting it as I go. I'm having a conversation with him as he dictates to me, and I'm rewriting the paper using more difficult language and bigger words, and making sure all of his stuff is right faster than he can dictate the paper. That's how much I typed, and I would write papers for people as like a job in high school. Like, you could hire me to just write whatever, tell me how many pages you want, and whatever topic, and done, right? Because I can generally do it off the top of my head and pretty quickly. So it's something that I've always done. I've always just typed so much that, to me, it is the most fluid thing. I can out type talking, and people are like, you talk so fast. I communicate so fast. That is what I do. And you guys see, quite now, I can't as much now do both things at the same time, but there was in time. Now I have to focus a lot more, and you can see I'm getting messages, and I want to. Oh, Tom just says about properties. In theory, perhaps a bubble could be good, but in practice, there are many properties on the market for years because there are so many other properties available at lower prices. And the more that are available, the less people trust the market. No liquidity. Okay. Hello, guys. Been a few days. Always great to. This is Raider Reyes. Watch your lives. Very informative, fun to watch. Thank you. Larry's finally here. Larry did not believe I was going live. Just took a nap, turned on the TV. It's like Christmas morning that this show was on. Gypsy says, how much a night would a budget hotel with AC cost in Leon? With AC is a little bit hard to guess, but probably 30, 35 words per minute is something like that. Alan says the fastest typist in the world is often associated with Barbara Blackburn, who famously claimed to type at 212 words per minute using a Dvorak keyboard. While other typists have achieved impressive feats, Blackbird's claim and her appearance on shows like Letterman's Late Night have solidified her legacy. Doesn't sound that fast to me. I actually know multiple people who type in those numbers. That's kind of like the Guinness Book of World Records record for Tetris. Like, okay, I didn't break it, but I came in number 2 on the Nintendo rankings just playing Tetris at home. No one's there to take a picture. There's probably 1,000 people who beat me at home, and you don't do it in competition. So those numbers aren't very impressive because only 0.000001% of the time is a game played at competition. Ambly says, hey, Scott, what are the initial steps of purchasing property in Nicaragua? Also, where can one find farmland relatively close to urban areas? Well, so all the urban areas have farmland around them. So even Managua, you can go, there's farmland inside the urban area. Not much, but it definitely exists even in Managua. Actually, Esteli is the least likely to have it because it's the densest population, and Messiah gets pretty dense as well. But this is not the United States, and that's not a knock on the U.S., but the U.S. does not have farmland up against urban areas. It's a different approach to how cities are designed and built. And when you're building in the U.S., you generally have an urban area bordered by a suburban area, which is then bordered by a village conglomerate before it goes to farmland. Typically, there's some farmland everywhere. In Europe, for example, it is common to have urban center, wall, farmland up against the wall. I was in Arcos de la Frontera in España in 2015, and one of the things that I loved is that they have a huge city wall. Like, it's an unbelievably impressive city wall. And when you're in the city, the cars can't get by each other. You're like squeezing by on the sidewalk. Houses are tiny. It is a dense city. Not a big city, but it's a dense city. And the city wall, if you have a house that has a window in the city wall, you're looking directly out on goats in a field, right? It's goats in a field up against the city wall. It's crazy. It's so wild. It's so many places in Europe. You'll be in the city and you look out and you're like, house, wall, or house, gate, house, some delimiter, fields, right? Nicaragua's not quite that dramatic, but it really is almost. If you're coming out of Leon in nearly any direction, yes, it doesn't go house, field, but it goes house, something a little bit bigger, a few little things, maybe hundreds of meters of it slowly turning into something slightly less, and then fields. Fields are very close to all the urban areas, so you don't have a place where you can't find that. That's the most important thing. What are the initial steps in purchasing property? Obviously, finding the property. You want to have a good lawyer before you're really looking for property. Often your lawyer is going to be a part of the searching process. There's a lot of things. It is... Hold on. The old mayor just sent me a message saying hi. He's apparently coming out dancing with us. I really don't know what, for us, it's really just what you would expect, right? Have a lawyer, have them work with you. For us, we're always going to have an agent, unless we're dealing with expats who already know that we're the ones buying it. You have a Nicaraguan agent go out and negotiate on your behalf and try to get a good price, get, information. Once you have a tentative deal, the lawyers hammer out the final details. Everything's basically like it is in the U.S. or Canada, right? You're going to, tentatively have an offer, work things out, do an inspection, ask questions. Everything's good. You just have your lawyer proceed. And depending on the type of property, there can be quite a few different variations of that. That's why your lawyer has to handle it. But really, none of it is stuff that... that the lawyer handles, right? That's just the process. You never want to be without a lawyer at every step of that process, and you want to have that person be someone you have a good rapport with prior to needing to buy something, right? You don't want to be discovering if they're very good on that particular large transaction. Okay, so Tom responds, Noah said, the original question, Noah said, so if someone was to book something, they would be in charge of booking it all. I wouldn't have to do any of that. And Tom responded and said, correct. And they will guarantee. And will they guarantee you an occupancy rate? No. Bookings are typically close to zero during the half year of low season, and who knows what they're like during the high season. Will they tell you the truth, or are they more likely to tell you whatever it will take to convince you to buy? Good points. Also, they don't know the truth. They will find out just like you, because the market beyond their sold out level is truly an unknown. Okay, we said, Noah said they have no skin in the game. This is the people who operate the places that he buys. For me to buy, since they aren't selling the property, they're just telling me how it works. Now, as long as I understand who these people are, he already said they get a 30% cut of operating the property. So they make money without putting anything in. So they have a huge incentive. I said also, so we asked, who knows what the occupancy rate is? I said, they don't know the truth. They will find out just like you, because the market beyond their sold out level is an unknown. This is, if you have a hotel that has 9 rooms and you're going to add a 10th, even if your 9 are sold out all the time, unless you have a constant stream of people being turned away for the 10th room, you don't know how likely it is to sell on any given day. I said they have a lot of skin in the game. They're just chickens, not pigs. They earn their money from the operations, so they have a huge incentive to talk you into it. So this is important for those who don't know. There's 2 types of investors, a chicken or a pig. This is industry standard conversation. When you're investing in a business, let's say, so the story is a chicken and a pig decide to open a new breakfast restaurant. They serve eggs and bacon. After they got the restaurant up and running, and it was trying to find out if they really were dedicated to the running of the restaurant, the pig said, I feel like you're not as dedicated to this process as me. You have an interest, I'm all in, right? Because the chicken provides eggs, it provides labor and effort, but the pig provides the bacon. It's all in on the investment, and so that's why we use those terms. It's important, like if someone is leveraging their life to the hilt to help a business get going, they're a pig. If someone is helping them out in their spare time or throwing some loose change at it, they're a chicken. They're involved, they may care a lot, but they're not desperate. They're not dependent on survival from the business surviving. The owners of Chancletas are telling me just how it works if I was to develop something within the community. The real estate agency is the one selling the lot. Budget hotel, initial steps. Scar says, hey, Scott, you told me to email about a consultation. I did, but no reply yet. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so far behind this week. Even opening emails is more than I can do. Alan says, yep, for sure. I was your first move to Nicaragua proof of concept. Raging Gun says, Mexico is great. I love Mexico. It is fantastic. Alan says, and now I dread going back to the U.S. Raging Gun says, Puerto Vallarta, it's terrible. Worst place to be. TJ's here. Hey, Scott. Raging Gun says, tanned, looking great, not burnt. Oh, thank you. It was a good day, mostly under canopy, so very, very shielded light, and a little bit in the pool or sitting by the pool, which gives you the other direction. Luke says to Ambly, short answer, don't do it. Rent for as long time before contemplating purchase or build. I could have rented a small house where I'd like to own. Currently, it's too removed to assimilate. Raging Gun says, owning houses today is for the super rich. Rent, well, it's, honestly, it's long been. Most people traditionally who say that they did, hold on, he's asking about real estate. What was I saying? Oh, houses. a lot of times in the past, people report that they've done really well with their houses, and some have, right? Some managed to buy when they were cheap and then live to a bubble and sell at the bubble. Yeah, there's times where you can make money on anything that goes up and down. But the majority of people who say that they've made money on their homes over their lifetimes have a difficult time proving it because there's a bunch of unknowns. Now, of course, we always don't know the cost of lost opportunity, but when presented with how much of the cost of lost opportunity are you considering, the answer is always zero. And that's the biggest number, right? Is how would, what if you'd invested this money another way? And what if you had had the flexibility of an apartment? Both of those things typically make way more money. So not considering two things, each one generally outperforming a house, is a weird way to look at a house making money. How do you possibly know if it's making money if you're not considering the major factors and just considering side ones? Canadian housing is ridiculous. Yeah, for sure. Luke says, Ambly, I'll pocket in savings in 2 years of renting to build what I want, where I want. A third year, I can buy a new car with cash. Rob Snyder says, Luke, I've got a similar plan. Not sure if I'll build or just buy pre-built, though. Raging Gun says, it's a long flight from Victoria, BC. Very long, 30 hours. Oh, that's crazy. Can almost drive it in that. There we go. Luke says, I've already 3D modeled shipping container homes for a 1.7 acre lot, also known as a manzana. Raging Gun says, cool. Ambly, thank you, Luke. What's the approximate price today for new construction? Nothing premium, just a simple house with full utilities. That's a very dangerous one because the numbers are all over the map, and it's not like the US and Canada where you can predict on those measurements. All those standard pricing things that you get from North America, with the rarest exception, don't apply here. No matter what number someone tells you, half of us will be like, it's way more than that. And half of us will be like, who would pay that much? And so you see ranges of up to like 10 times on even construction cost. So it's very very hard to predict, right? It's not like the US, right? In the US, houses are very similar. So and the cost of land is very similar. Like, things are very predictable for a lot of reasons. Here, the difference between different types of construction can be just wildly different in cost. Raging Gun says, good idea. Rob Snyder says, that's a pretty cool route to take. We considered a container home here in Canada, ended up buying a townhome. Emily says, also, what are lot prices going for? Like 3 acres in the country. Also, not really something you can ask, right? So some people will find them for, and will tell you that's $100,000. And a bunch of us will be like, we definitely can get 3 acres for $6,000. That's what is being asked, what people are actually paying, where in the country. Remember, compared to the United States, and then remember, this is far more dynamic. If you said, what are 3 acres cost in the country, in the U.S., no one can give you that number. It varies so much across the country. But here, even though the country's smaller, the range is probably larger because at some point in the United States, no one's going to go below a certain standard price on an acre. But here, you're going to find people selling acres for $200. And so it's just so wildly different. You can come in with a budget and say, look, I got $1,000. I got to live somewhere. You're going to find space. You can come in and say, I want this specific 3 acres and pay whatever someone demands it of you. And there's just not going to be any significant market pressure to determine that. Generally, though, I would say somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500 per acre is on a reasonable high side in the country. But when you're only buying 3 acres, you're not getting like farmland, right? It's not enough to get like farm scale for pricing. So that's probably decent numbers. Beth says, just got back from Nicaragua trip for the first time and found it to be a very special place. I think that's due to the people. They just have this authenticity and heart. Hey, Beth, welcome to the show. Glad you got to visit Nicaragua and had a good experience here. Rob Snyder says, Ambly, it's very dependent on area of Nicaragua. Prices vary like crazy. Luke says, Ambly, no rhyme or reason. If building concrete and metal, avoid timber unless you want to feed the termites. Lots of termites. Emily says, yes, nothing premium or in town centers. Looking for lot prices in the hill region by Matagalpa for a small farm. Keep in mind that we don't normally deal with lots outside of lotifications, and those are HOA residencias. So Okay. Scott, I finally logged into Nicoloro. What's next? How do I find out what's good for you? All right, let me jump in and make sure we've got people who are on Nicoloro taken care of. We have not talked about that this week. We've got so much going on this week in such a short show that I forgot to mention all of our social medias that we've had the last few weeks. For those who are interested, nicoloro.com. Did not take my... There we go. Nicoloro.com is our Mastodon server for here in Nicaragua, and it is a lot like Twitter for those in the old school social media stuff. If anyone is interested, it's free to sign up. It's a fun place to have an account, and no, we have nobody pending. All right. Luckily, and we checked Nicagram just a little bit ago. It's a neat place to just go in and connect with people. Who was that? Raider Reyes. Go look at my profile, which is at Scott Allen Miller, obviously, and look at the people that I follow, and just go through and follow all those people. Almost no one posts anything. Even I'm really bad at it. I've been so busy. I don't get to open any apps and do anything this week. But I try to post when I'm going out to like dinner, if I'm going to an event, I try to say it in there. I try to post some pictures of it. And we need to get all you guys doing that stuff. Like, it's so fun when we get a number of people sharing our stories, and especially when we're in Nicaragua. And it's just really cool. So if anyone is interested, go sign up on nicoloro.com. That's Nika and then Loro like parrot, because, you know, parrots like to talk. So it is perfect. And then Nicagram, if anyone is interested, is its equivalent that is like Instagram. And this is a pixel-fed server. And also, both of these, you have to be approved to get in. So we like to mention it on the live stream because I can approve people for them. And so one is about your status updates. Nicoloro is like, just share your day. I'm having food and maybe a picture of food. I'm going to a concert. You can find concerts at the Nicarumba events user on there. You can follow them, and every time an event gets added to the system, it pops up on there, and you can follow that and just see concerts going on or whatever. And it's fun having people in the community do this stuff, because it's like, oh my gosh, you're in Leon, oh you're at Dr. Coffee, I'm at Dr. Coffee, we're in different rooms, oh my gosh, let's go on. Right? It's a way to connect. Right, very cool. So do that if you can. And then Nicagram is really designed around photos, just like Instagram. And so you can't post a status update that doesn't have a photo. You can post photos with no status, but not the other way around. And so it's a place really designed around photo sharing, and the other is, oh, thanks, Luke, always good, around status. And so two different things, but pretty good. Okay. No rhyme or reason, nothing premium. Rob Snyder says, Amberly, in that area, I've heard prices as low as $500 to $1,000 an acre. Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely heard below 500, but also in, wow, that's cheap kind of things. But yeah, there's no reason that you wouldn't be able to find $500 an acre, but $1,000 is more common, I think. Emily says, thank you very much, Rob. Who do you look for when purchasing land in Nicaragua? You never speak to real estate agents. That's just not going to be a good process. Attorneys, city council members, I've never heard of someone going to a city council member. I'm completely blind on the administrative process. So there isn't one, right? So this is the most important thing. You need to spend time and be on the ground, on foot, and looking around on your own. Can you ask people, yeah, do you know something for sale? Yes, but you know what? There's stuff for sale everywhere. So starting with anything other than figuring out where you want to be is going to either dictate where you get to be, which is not what you want, or it's going to just waste your time. You need to be here. You need to put in a lot of time. There's no shortcutting this. Every person who shortcuts this in any way whatsoever gets burned. And every person says, well, I'm the exception. And let me tell you, I have dealt with the most I'm the exception person ever recently, and the degree to which they've been burned by that process is, it would take me an hour to tell you all the ways that their life has been destroyed because they didn't believe that all the advice that we've given, all the standard things, all the logical, common sense things that we say, here's what you do, they thought none of it applied to them. They were sure, and they had reasons why they thought it didn't apply to them. We did all this research. We're more knowledgeable about this. We're more experienced in this and this and that. But the thing is, if you were knowledgeable and experienced, the one thing you would say is every person who's knowledgeable and experienced makes the same mistake, and everyone who's successful doesn't. If I feel these things are applicable, I'm being emotional. I don't know why, but that's how emotions work. So logic says these things don't work consistently. It is every scary story of failure comes from this impatience, this buying from abroad, this talking to a real estate agent, this, and there are okay real estate agents out there, but that's not a good process for looking for land, especially in most cases. So you need to do a lot of research, because just imagine if you were coming to the United States and you said, okay, where do I get some land? No one can help you. There is nobody who has the experience to take you around the United States and show you land, right? That's not a thing. People know where they want to be or where they need to be, and they're looking for specific things. And this is a thing. When people come to Nicaragua, I was talking to someone about this recently. I have videos about it. I can't figure out what it is, but people are just like, I want land. Is there? And someone has asked me before, is there a house for sale in Nicaragua? And we're like, Nicaragua's not a housing development of 15 houses. It's 7 million people. It's an open market. Like, of course there's a house for sale. Do you think there are countries that don't have houses for sale? That's not a thing, right? That's so weird. It's like saying, are there restaurants in this country? Trust me, there are restaurants in this country. And no, it doesn't matter what country you're asking about, right? Every country has houses. Every country has farmland. Every country has restaurants. Those are just the basics. And so from there, you've got to put in a ton of research. And by research, we mean on the ground, looking, where do I want to be? Then resources that are local can help you potentially find real things. But most of the time, the places you're going to find is you're either going to walk up and there's going to be a sign that says it's for sale, or you're going to find a spot you want to be and you're going to find the owner, maybe that you use a lawyer for, and you walk up and say, I'd like to buy this, or I'd like to buy part of this. Up for it? That's how it works. There aren't centralized systems. The city doesn't know. Real estate agents have less information than anyone in my experience. That I don't know how, but it seems to be true. Attorneys tend to have the most, but only so much. Word of mouth and being a part of a community and putting in time. If you don't do that, you are going to not get the better options, and you're going to pay the premiums. And there's just no way around that. The system is word of mouth. The system is informal. There are very low volume. It's not anyone's fault. It's just a small country without a ton of money being involved. So no one's going to pay to make it easy for foreigners to get good deals. No one earns from that. So no one's going to do that. And so the reality is just this weird thing where you have to walk around and look and just talk to people. But it is what it is. It's a frustrating process, and everyone is frustrated and impatient and wants to short-circuit it. And when you short-circuit things, you get electrocuted. So consider that has the expected result if you try to work around that. Amazing experience to connect to a place all alone, just you in that place with all their stories, Raul said. Yes, it really is. It's such... it is a special thing, and knowing some history really helps. So much that you can feel this connection. You can know what happened there, and so And one time I was having lunch with a friend and ended up in a room and just wow, I got a mosquito bite on my neck. We have a lot of mosquitoes because of the warm rain we had recently. I was just sitting in a pub with someone in New York having a drink, and I looked at the wall and I was like, this is the room in which George Washington disbanded the Continental Army. And you're like, what? Now there are other people there. I didn't have that same it's all mine kind of thing. Because when you're in a place with a lot of other people, it's like, oh, you don't actually touch the walls. You don't actually get close to things. You're very, isolated in a way. It's like it's like you're kind of there. But when you're alone, you're like, you can sit on the floor, you can touch the walls, you can walk into the corners. I don't know, you connect with it differently. Cool ride. Hello, Scott. Been following your vlogs, and they are super informative about everything. Been thinking about relocating back to my home country. I would like to know places for kids with autism. Well, first, cool ride. Hey, welcome to the community, and thanks for being on the live stream. That's awesome. So we know a lot of kids here with autism, and we'll try to have Marcela talk about that on an upcoming video. Her daughter has autism. My daughter has autism. I have autism. Marcela and her daughter are in the midst of starting to take classes on helping children with autism through the public education system, meaning like it prepares her as a specialist for working with them in the public education system. So certainly they have a lot of it here, everywhere, right? It's just part of the human experience. And they have resources for them. But I don't know anything in the vein of places for people with autism. Outside of like the school system having some resources for that, especially in the big cities, I really don't know what things there would be. There aren't a lot of like specialty things here. Remember, it's a tiny country, so there's only so many resources or volume for those kinds of things. Emily says, thank you, Luke. Oh, Luke says, Emily, you'll use an attorney to basically do an advanced title search. That's the really important stuff, is they check all the things. Raider Reyes says, thank you very much. Always helpful. Luke says, I'll try to do another photo dump on Sunday. Emily says, do you have trusted attorneys that you've worked with and someone you know you has worked with? Yeah, I have attorneys that I work with, for sure. Luke says, I am trusting the attorney I found in Matagalpa. First positive was notary service and referral translation service. Referral. He also made referrals for the rentals. He'll be reviewing my rental next week. Pablo Iran Chavaria. And Emily says, thank you again, Luke. I have a feeling I'll be saying that a lot. All right. Oh, hold on. We got to go get rid of what the heck is going on here? You got Crazy Tan. Don't tell you on the live stream. Sorry, we're doing a little bit of description, get you banned, better platforms, Telegram in the Wild West, how many groups have you been banned from, blah, 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 how many groups of people talk with no filters, Wild West, I mean, advice, not to use Telegram, never had to. All right. Sorry. Always the chat groups going wild when I'm in the live stream. Oh, so they're talking about the time that I almost got screwed over on a hotel. All right. What did people say? Well, the point of this conversation is just to be careful of overpaying. You need to realize that it's not like the States where you can easily sell if you decide you don't want to be there anymore. If you are cool with the price you are paying and you are fine that there are no renters and you understand it would be difficult to sell if you change your mind, then go for it. Just look openly at all the risks. If you accept those risks, go right ahead. That was Janet. No, I asked what an MLS is. There's no MLS in Nicaragua was the topic. You don't need to know what it is. There isn't one. Lots of things that don't exist. Alan says, everyone who overpays is actually hurting Nicaragua. Look at Scott's video on tipping. It's no different. Definitely. We don't use realtors. What do you do? If there's a cheap option, I would do it. I'm not trying to lose money I worked hard for. Sorry for the typing. To actually buy, use an attorney. Watch Scott's videos on this. You would never use a realtor in Nicaragua. They have a vested interest in cheating you. Not really cheating you. They have a vested interest in overcharging you. It's not cheating because you actually sign a contract making them do that. So it's the opposite. Actually, if they give you a good deal, they're cheating you because you told them that the thing that matters most is for them to get a bad price for you. It's a weird arrangement, but it's not on them. It's on you. The higher the selling price, even your agent, the more money they make. They have a financial incentive. Oh, that's what he said. Totally true, but how else do I contact the seller? All right. You drive around and ask people. You talk to a lawyer to get information. It's true. Like, coming from North America, people are so addicted to the idea of real estate agents that it never occurs to them that it doesn't actually make a lot of sense. There's so many laws and monopolies and stuff that make it a necessary thing in North America. And there's so many shows that show them other places that you just assume you must have to use them. But in most places, they don't actually make a whole lot of sense. And here, they have like no value. Not always. There are a few that are good for sure, but they're the exception. It's not logic. It's that they're brute forcing through. If someone's going to be a good real estate agent, they have to be altruistic and pushing really hard, all kinds of things. Jan says, true, but someone already overpaid for that lot already. Oh, they're looking at, yeah. And then we'll put more money into it, so he needs to just really be aware of the facts and accept it. But if he does it right, maybe he will negotiate the price down because the real estate person really would have the price, because that real estate agent would really have the price inflated. As Alan said, Nicaragua is not an online community. Jan says, actually watch that first one when he didn't buy the first hotel. It will open your eyes. Jan's talking about the time that I got nearly screwed on a hotel deal that we did back out of. Or technically the other guy backed out of and we just accepted and ran away. Noah says, I had a local Nicaraguan who used to work for the same real estate agency take me around to check out lots and talk directly to the owners. It's such a small place. And I told the real estate agent guy that I looked at, and he told me that they don't deal with the area that I liked because the titles are bad. How would he know that? It's really unlikely. Talking about the titles. He probably didn't want to deal with the area because you would instantly know he was going to scam you. Hard on that. Right, Nicaragua is not the USA. Stop treating it that way. That's the mentality, getting away from. Thinking of things like the U.S. really does a lot. Blah, blah, blah. How are the universities in the country? I mean, they're not bad. Like UNAN and a lot of those are pretty good. UCA was good. I don't know its name now. They changed the name. Education as a whole, really. Nicaragua is known as an education country. Leon is an education city. It's traditionally been the education center of Central America. Is it the absolute best? No, but is it good? Yeah, it's pretty decent. Public schools in the barrios, rough, definitely rough, but tons of really good private schools and some good public schools and loads of universities and all kinds of things. So Luke says, what did BE do now? It's a bunch of derailed conversations. I'm trying not to be too heavy-handed with it, especially because I can't read it as it goes. So I know there's some, we're trying to keep those groups family-friendly, and there's a lot of not so family-friendly edging stuff and talking about doing bad things to people. Nothing gross, just illegal. And sometimes you have to nip that in the bud. Jan says, sorry, we can't help it. My dad says, good night, really enjoyed, have fun dancing. Joe says, if you had to do it all over again today, would you reconsider choosing El Salvador or Guatemala as the country to live in versus Nicaragua? If I was redoing it today, I would definitely reconsider having El Salvador on the potential list. I would not consider it at this point at all. So El Salvador has moved farther down the list. With the most recent things going on there, I would be afraid to some degree to consider El Salvador, whether right now or where it's heading in the future. it is not in a good place at the moment. Economically, it's doing very poorly, and the things that are going on politically are spilling into the public space where you're not affected by it in a political sense. You're affected by it as a citizen, especially as Americans. And so I'm still at a spot where I would visit El Salvador with a pretty high degree of confidence. But would I move there? Absolutely not. It is 100% off of my consideration list at this point. It would. I don't know what it would take. It would take something really dramatic for it to make it back onto the list of consideration like it used to be for living. Like, I'm not going to invest my time in life. Had you asked me a year ago, I was like, nah, I'm not going to choose it over Nicaragua, but it's pretty awesome. But their trajectory has 100% halted. All positive movement appears to be gone at this point, and we'll have to see where they go and what they do. But I would not be tying my horse to that wagon, let's say, at this particular time. Guatemala, absolutely. I think at the time, Guatemala was a very much an unknown, and like, one of my best friend's parents used to live there, so it was my introduction to Central America in many ways, and I know a bit about it, but it was always, and now having lived there, or not having lived there, sorry, having worked there and having visited there a bit, Guatemala is my number 2 country. If we were not going to live in Nicaragua, Guatemala is absolutely where we would want to be. So that is, I think it's a pretty big thing. So yeah, it's way up my list. Is it going to replace Nicaragua? No, we really like Nicaragua, but it is amazing. I really love it. So the problem is there's only so many moderators, guys. I'm going to just delete a few things instead of like... All right. Yeah, so Guatemala we would spend a lot more time, like if I had to go back and evaluate, I'd say, I really needed to put more time into Guatemala. But my end result would still be Nicaragua. But love Guatemala. Absolutely. Absolutely amazing. Alex, is there a need for English teachers? There's a huge need for them, but one, they cannot hire you. 2, you're not allowed to work here. So it doesn't matter what the need is, which I assume you're asking because you want to find out if there's something you can do about it. No. Do they need English teachers here? Yes, it would do wonders for the country, but unless you can come up with some unbelievable means of getting a work permit, which is so unthinkable under normal circumstances. I know some people have said that they managed to get university permission in the past, but hold on. Who's the admin? Scott's the admin. Janet, we nuked Bryce. He's had so many warnings. He's been kicked out of so many of the other groups. I have spent so much time getting messages about his unacceptable behavior, talking about killing people. Absolutely not going to happen. No, there's absolutely no reason for Bryce to be in any group anywhere. It's a waste of everyone's time and just a big problem. So, and I don't care how much he's like, oh, but I shouldn't be removed from groups because of things I said. He should have been removed from all the groups because of the things he said in the past. So if we find him in a group, we're going to remove him. Just the way it is. He went way too far, too many times. Alan agreed. I just left after the last post. Yeah, don't leave. Ask Scott to deal with it. It's driving so many people away. I didn't leave permanently. I just waited for Scott to delete it, but he's busy. Luke says, Das Boot. Tiffany says, game over. Jen says, Ramon made me delete him from my contacts. Yep. Hold on. Rolo says, good night, Scott. Thanks for chatting and all the info provided. It was nice catching you live with you. It's past midnight here in Jersey. Have fun dancing and stay safe. Yep. He can have fun at Interpol. Yeah. Bryce is about to go to Interpol, and he's posting things that would get him in trouble with Interpol. Not with Interpol particularly, but constantly. He can have fun at Interpol. Alan says, please come back to Leon chat, Janet. He's gone now. So it is 10:30. This is when I promised to get off because I have to go shower quickly and drive downtown to Venti Trace, to bar 23 Bar, where I am going dancing this evening with my entourage. So if anyone wants to come see us this evening, we will be there. And oh, yes. Yeah. Luke says, Bryce left the U.S. while under federal charges. Like, he has so many major crimes back in the U.S. that he's going to Interpol now is going to be very interesting because he has the combination of he doesn't have the necessary passport to be in Nicaragua. But in theory, he could get it, but he's committed crimes in the U.S., so he can't get that passport. This is all stuff he said publicly on the group. I'm just repeating the stories he's told. And so he's like trying to extend his visa, trying to get a new passport, all these things he can't do through this process. Emily says, what's a legitimate avenue of obtaining citizenship? There is none. There just is none. That is not a thing. I've read of a $30,000 investment to obtain residency, but I do not know the details. So residency and citizenship are, I guess you can say they're related, but they are not in any way the same thing. Residency is the ability to stay. Citizenship means you are a permanent member of the country, like you are part of the country. A citizen. So, yeah, really no value in citizenship. There's no, like, if you want that, you really should step back and go, what made me want that? Now, don't get me wrong. I've lived here a long time, and I do want it. But it's not something that I want for logical, important reasons like, oh, now I get to do this or that, right? Technically, it would give me the right to vote, which is fine. I would be happy to participate in the country that I love and want to spend the rest of my life in. So, yeah, but am I concerned about voting? I am not, right? It's just not super important to me. The people of Nicaragua have a country that they have made for themselves that I am happy with. I don't need to influence that, even if I become a citizen and have the right to. I don't have a particular driving need to stick my nose into the business of people who have done a good job. I'm here because I like what they've decided, right? I like what they've come up with as results. If I get involved, yeah, my vote is very small. But it's just throwing my weight. And I come from a country where I don't like the results and where I did vote. Now, I'm not saying it was my fault, but I can't prove it wasn't. And statistically, it just makes sense for me not to vote from a, right? Whatever me voting and being a part of did turned out bad things. Me not voting and not being involved turned out good things. So let them make the decisions. I'm happy with those decisions. That is my math is an amazing way to look at the world. So importantly, citizenship is not something that you have a path for here. Can it be obtained? Yes, there are extreme circumstances under which you can get citizenship. But the final step of any citizenship process here is that you have to be either approved by the president or by the General Assembly, by the legislature, which can happen for sure. But think about how hard those things are. That is the equivalent in the United States of the president or Congress having to vote you in as a citizen. That is not trivial. It's plausible, but it's not trivial. So it's a big deal to get that here in many, many ways. And so, having lived here for as many years as I have heard rumors of people who have gotten citizenship, and I know one person who has. One. And it took 40 years for him to get it. And he did things like volunteer in the military, right? Volunteer and did really important things for the country. So the chances that any of us are ever going to get it, very low. Now, residency, you have lots of options. One is investment, but generally you don't have to do that. Almost no one does investment. And it's real investment. If you do the investment path, it's true investment. You have to have a real business with real employees, and it's hard. It's also a good path, but it's a hard one. You can do what's known as a pensionado, which uses pension funds, if those are things you have. You can do a rentista, which is just like the word is in English. It's just a term for investments that have dividends, right? So if you have money, technically, money that comes from the increase in the value of an investment, that doesn't technically count, but I don't think they would pay attention to it. And if you're making your money from dividends from investments, that's what a rentista is. Everyone has a tendency to see the RENT at the beginning of that word and assume it means something unrelated to what it is. And so people ask me some weird questions sometimes that about a bunch of rules that don't exist anywhere. And it's like, where are you getting these ideas? And you can marry someone, of course. I don't suggest just marrying someone for citizenship. It's really easy to get citizenship. So, I'm sorry, for residency. You can marry someone for residency. I don't recommend doing it. There are easier and more or less weird ways to be able to stay. And you don't generally, so many people end up not needing residency at the end of the day. A lot do, but a lot don't. So that is oh, my wife is popping on because she just saw Bryce get banned. I guarantee my wife is going to be talking about Bryce being banned. All right. Good night, all. This is Trey. Have fun dancing, Scott and company. So, Trey, just be aware we got rid of Bryce. You're all good. Larry says you're going to 23 Bar dressed like the Indian chief and the village people. Larry, the Indian chief and the village people, goes to work dressed like me. Let's be fair. We'll see. I don't know what I'm wearing. Oh, my wife says I almost went into his office to tell him to drop the hammer because my wife was watching. Tiffany says, take lots of photos and share tomorrow of you in the entourage. Okay, I'll try to get pictures. If I don't get pictures of me in the entourage there, I do have 751 pictures of the entourage from today because my entourage went out and modeled for the Airbnb shoots today. And so we have pictures of them all over the property, drinking drinks, laying by the pool, doing whatever. So it's we'll get the entourage out for you guys tomorrow. They'll be on Nicagram and for sure. I'll be putting pictures up, but I have not uploaded those even to Flickr yet, although I'll start that tonight. So if you know my Flickr stream, actually, while I'm out dancing, but they're coming off my Fuji, the one that we're using here, so these are huge image files and not like normal, like coming off my Nikon. So when I'm going to upload 750 of one of them, Flickr is going to be like, no. Larry says, I'm like that place. I like that place. However, I've got U.S. calls early in the morning. Sorry, Larry, but I'm going with Ida, and I'm going with Marcela, and then people you don't know. But he knows some of the entourage. He knows the baseball portion of my entourage, but the other portion, they don't like baseball and won't go to games. Amberly says, for people who have funds in Canada and American banks, how can they be accessed in Nicaragua? Well, same as basically everywhere in the world. This is not universal, but it's really close. If you need to move large amounts from bank to bank, wire transfer. If you need to move small amounts to yourself, ATM. Literally, it's that easy. You just go to the ATM and take it out with your debit card. Or if you have someone to move it to, you wire it to them. If you want the money yourself, open a bank account here. That's the maybe if you I don't have one, you don't need it, but you might. Wire it to yourself, and then you can use it here. But the average, the median expat in the country, long term, is not going to have a bank account. But many do. There's lots of good reasons to have one, but there's a lot of people who just don't need it. My wife says, if I would have responded to his last message, I would have been banned. All right. We'll download Nicagram and Nika Laurel later. Awesome, Tiffany. And Ambly says, thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge, Scott. You're welcome. And there are no other questions at this moment. We're going to take this moment to cut the live stream. I went 12 minutes over. I need to get out for people. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining tonight. Remember to like, subscribe, do all those things. Sign up for Nicagram, Nika Laurel. I'll get you guys added tomorrow, if nothing else. And I just enjoy so much doing these. I'm sorry that it was only a 2-hour one and so late tonight, but it was a really good, really active one. I think we had a really good group. And I mean, for the little bit of time we're on, we had over 100 views per hour. So we did quite well. It was very lively, and I will see all of you. And remember, we have videos from today that came out like right as this started, so go watch those as well. I'll see you guys all tomorrow.